Well, I'm delighted to be joined by James Askew today from Arundel Castle Cricket Club. You're the senior groundsman there, James. Thanks for your time. How are you doing down there today?
We're a bit wet. We've had a lot of rain again overnight. Fortunately, avoided the snow. But yeah, we have had a lot of rain down here and we're underwater.
Oh, great. Well, you've probably not got long for me today then, or you got stuff to do, or have you just got to let it take its course?
Nothing on the turf. There's plenty of painting jobs to do around though, inside and outside.
Okay, that'll keep you warm at least then.
Yeah.
So, your job there, you're not just working on the cricket club there, you're working in football as well part-time, aren't you? What are you doing with the football?
I am Dead. I look after Isthmian League, Premier Division, Bognor Regis Town. I look after that on a part-time basis. Do about 15 hours a week down at their ground, which isn't too far. It's about 20 minutes away from Arundel.
And that's just comes second to Arundel, does it? The main job is Arundel.
Yeah, main job's Arundel, full-time at Arundel. And then in my spare time, I look after Bognor.
Okay. Well, let's go back to the beginning for you then, James. What got you into turf care first off?
Back when I was 16, I was at my local sports facility where I played cricket and football. They were just short of hands in the summer after I finished my GCSEs. So I just jumped on a roller, moved a few covers around, and then it progressed from there.
So that was voluntary, yeah?
Yeah, that was all voluntary.
And you decided this is the career for me, yeah?
Yeah, I just enjoyed it, being outside. I was never been the sort of person to sit behind a desk and a computer. It's been very much out in the fresh air, should we say.
Okay, fine. So where was the first job for you then, where you actually started getting paid for your passion, should we call it?
I saw advertised Sussex County Cricket Club. They had an apprentice role going. So I applied for that and I got the job, where I then spent 2 years at Plumpton to get my level 2. And I went from there.
And is that working with Andy Mack?
Yeah, Andy Mack was my head groundsman there, yep.
Okay, and when you started there, were you working at the main ground or were you working elsewhere?
No, so with their apprentices, you move to different sites with Sussex. So they looked after Preston Nomads, which was a club ground. They had Blackstone, which was their academy ground. So when I first started, they were the 2 grounds as well as the main county ground that they looked after. So my time was divided between the 3. And then in my final 2 years at Sussex, we took on the contract at Horsham, which was the outground for Sussex at the time, alongside Arundel. So I then went to Horsham and was the senior groundsperson there for 2 years.
So was that like having your own ground?
Yeah, it's a big facility down there. There are 2 cricket grounds, a set of tennis courts, artificial tennis courts, and 4 grass courts. So it was a big site.
So you're looking after the tennis as well?
Yeah.
Okay, so some different surfaces that you've looked after then.
It was, yeah.
So you moved on from there, I think, didn't you, and ended up having a spell in football?
Yeah, I then left Sussex and then I moved down to Portsmouth Football Club, where I spent another good 5 years down there.
Okay. What differences did you notice when you went to professional football from professional cricket?
The big thing for me was the actual working hours in football. I felt were a lot less than cricket. We used to have a lot of arguments down at Portsmouth, ironically, between us about who worked the most hours between the sports. Having worked at pro level at both of them, I found certainly in season cricket was intense. There was no doubt about it. You work a 4-day county championship game, whereas in football, I had the luxury you work a match day, and then depending on the fixture list, you might have 3 or 4 days where you haven't got another game. So it was quite nice then. But both of them are obviously difficult jobs in their own right, and both do work long hours.
Yeah, be fair, you don't have to work Christmas Day in cricket, do you?
No, I did a few times at Portsmouth though.
I bet, yeah. I think through the summer you got that. So 5 years in football. What was the pull back to essentially cricket then? Because I think you then moved to where you are now, didn't you?
Yeah, so Portsmouth was an hour's drive there and an hour's drive back, where Arundel is 5 minutes down the road. So with the cost of everything going up, especially I joined Arundel ironically just when all this petrol nonsense was happening. Petrol was going through the roof. So it was a no-brainer for me to apply for the job at Arundel, and thankfully I got the job.
And how long you been there now?
Since February 21.
Okay, so a degree of, were we coming out of lockdown then, or were we still kind of a bit strange with no crowds, etc.?
It was my first part of the season. We couldn't have crowds here,
Right,
because we were classed as an elite venue, all very grey areas.
okay. So back to first class cricket, because you're an outground for Sussex.
Yeah.
How did you find transitioning back to cricket then, apart from the unreasonable hours?
Not too much of a problem. I kept myself ticking over again at my local cricket club. On the odd occasion, I'd help out the ground staff there if they were short-handed. So I was still preparing cricket pitches on the odd occasion. Which was nice to keep me ticking over anyway in that sport.
Your time in football, has it given you anything that added to your skills in relation to looking after cricket grounds?
Yeah, I mean, it's given certainly the benefit for me is for the outfield, for certain, because obviously football pitches, certainly at professional level, we've obviously all got state-of-the-art drainage systems. They've got the irrigation systems now, and certainly at outground level, outfields is one of the things that we really look to improve. And certainly when you see football pitches, the way they're built and constructed, it very much is almost the same as cricket outfields.
And at Pompey, were you dealing with a hybrid surface, or was it fully natural?
It changed actually while I was there. So when I started, we had just a natural soil pitch. Was horrendous to work on. It would rain, clumps of turf would come up. And then in my third year, we installed a mixed stow hybrid carpet.
Right, okay. And you immediately saw an improvement?
We did, yeah, massive improvement. Just stability-wise, was incredible, the difference.
And do you think hybrid is the way to go for outfields for cricket, or do you think that's too much of an expense?
I think it's a big expense. I also think you haven't got the wear and tear. Because obviously the games, you've got different footwear that players are wearing, and the intensity of over the turf on the outfield is completely different to football. The staff on top, which helps with covers, helps with if there's the big games need nets on the square and things, so it helps putting the nets up and down. So we're more than covered if we have the real big fixtures here.
So what sort of team you're working with there then, James?
So I've got myself and I've got an assistant full-time throughout the year.
So when that comes to match days, then that doesn't sound an awful lot of people to help get the covers out and everything else. Do you get some extra staff in?
It's not. On a normal match day, it will just be us two. We just slog it, pull a lot of sheets around, and we'll get on with it. For the big games, the county fixtures, any cup finals we host, etc., we bring in up to 4 staff. That they will help with covers, putting nets up, taking nets down, anything else that's needed on the ground they help with as well.
So how many of the big fixtures do you get a year?
It varies. Sadly, at the moment, the county first class fixture hasn't happened since COVID.
Right.
It's disappointing, really. It's all down to Sussex to make that decision. So we host various ECB finals. We host the over 50s final. Try to think what else I've got on my fixture list this year. I've got the Cricketer Cup final that's held here. And we've also been selected by the ECB and the ICC this year to host one of the warm-up games for the World Test Championship.
Oh, well, okay. Do you know who you're going to get?
We don't know. All we know, it will be either Australia, India or Sri Lanka, but we won't know till March who we're hosting.
So 2 out of those 3?
Yeah, we'll host one of them. The other team is going to be based at another outground, which obviously I can't name who it is.
No, that's cool. That's really good. So, any one of those must be, have you had tests played there before at all, or any kind of internationals?
The previous history of the ground, going years back, probably ended in about 2001, 2002, was the tourists every year would always play their first game with a tour here against like a Duke of Norfolk's 11 or PCA Masters. And then that all died down when things changed and the cricket itineraries all changed and things. Okay. So it's exciting for Arundel to host international class players again.
So that's exciting for you as a grounds professional.
Yeah, looking forward to it. The planning's already underway, and yeah, it's been exciting. And hopefully, we don't know yet, depending who we're hosting, what formats they want to play, etc. About crowds, whether they may be behind closed doors yet. But we're hoping if a crowd will be allowed, touch wood, and it should be a good sized crowd in the ground.
Important revenue as well if that does get allowed.
It will be, yeah, especially when I spend a lot of money on stuff.
So we'll come on to your budgets in a minute. Your experience of any international cricket, did you get any while you were with Sussex?
In my time at Sussex, I was at Hove when they hosted India for I think it was a 50 over game, a warm-up game.
Okay.
And then when I was at Blackstone, we hosted the ICC European Division 1, I think it was, or Division 2.
Right, okay.
The finals event was based in Sussex, and Preston Nomads and Horsham held all the group stages, and then the finals events were held between Blackstone and Sussex. So we had that. It wasn't the top elite international cricket, obviously. It wasn't the Australians or Englands and that. But we had teams like your Italy's, I think it was Italy, Sweden, Belgium. We hosted their level.
Adds a little extra buzz, though, I'm sure, to get that kind of level of cricket for you.
Yeah.
Knowing that the top players are playing on your surface, yeah?
Yeah, last year here at Arundel, we hosted, well, you can class it international. We had an Ireland under 23s. Played a 3-day game here. Unfortunately, it rained all 3 days.
Okay.
And they probably got about a day and a half worth of cricket. Played right at the end of the season in September. It wasn't pretty. They played I think it was a Wonder inside Free Foresters or something. But it was exciting just to see Ireland. It was down to 23s. They were here, still acting as professional as you would expect at international level.
And did you get some help with the covers? Because it sounds like you might have needed it.
Yeah, we had a couple of extra. It wasn't too bad because once the covers were on, they were never coming off. It was raining that much.
Okay. Oh, that's all right. If it's going to rain, stay raining.
It wasn't one of those where you look at the forecast thinking, oh, the covers have gone off all day. I mean, once it rained, they just stayed on.
So your ground there then, what challenges have you got? What's it like to manage as a surface, or surfaces, I should say?
So the square's old. It's 125 years old. It's not a properly constructed square. It was just been built up over the years and years of renovations. We've got 16 pitches, of which 2 of them last season we turned into hybrid, had the pitches stitched. And one of the pitches was fully reconstructed back in 2014 under Andy Mack's guidance when he was head groundsman at Sussex. The rest of them are just, say, old, non-constructed pitches. So there's not a lot of pace and bounce in them. It doesn't make it very exciting for our bog standard club level games. It's pretty flat. Batsmen love coming here, bowlers don't like coming here. The outfield, it's always presented, looks very nice. However, underneath is a different picture. Unfortunately, we've got a lot of thatch. We sit on a lot of flint. Drainage isn't particularly brilliant in the top layer. Bottom layer is great because underneath all the organic stuff is chalk, so it then does drain very nicely. But we get through it, and we're looking to make improvements at the moment.
So I guess that drainage issue is why you've got flooding at the moment. So you've just got to let that take its course, have you?
Yeah. Once it gets through the top 2 inches, it'll all of a sudden it'll go very quickly.
Right.
It will sit boggy for a couple of days, and then all of a sudden it'll be dry as anything.
Going back to those hybrid pitches, I mean, that must have been an interesting process for you to go through installing those. Had you been through it before anywhere with Sussex, or was it something that was brand new to you?
It was brand new to me on cricket. I'd seen Sis do some stitching at Portsmouth, so I knew about their machinery and stuff. Cricket, it was new to me. I went to Hove, had a good chat with Ben Gibson, who obviously took over from Andy. Had a good chat with him, saw their hybrids and their nets and out on the square. And then, I mean, Sis grass were great to deal with. Had 2 installed here, and the results have been incredible for us. It's exactly all the advice we've received from elsewhere, especially Ben Gibson, on how they play, how to prep them. It's just been perfect.
And would you say that they're the best two pitches you've got, or you're not using them for the main games, as it were?
No, so the county pitch, the reconstructed county pitch is the best pitch by far.
Okay.
The hybrids have given us more pace and bounce, as we thought we'd get a little bit, but last year's results were extraordinary, to be fair. We didn't expect the results we got, and last year we played the county second 11 T20 finals down on one of them. Went through really well. The other one was later on in the year, and we thought we'd give that a test and see how much we can really push a hybrid. We've played on it continuously for about 10 days. It was incredible, and we didn't repair a single foothold.
Wow. Okay.
So we were really impressed with how they played and how they held up.
And is it footholds that are the major problem, and that's why the hybrids are such an advantage?
Well, we brought the hybrids in. When we get to June and July, we hit our real big peak of the season, and pitch turnaround to get them back, it was proven difficult over the years they've been here. We would go through a period where, in the space probably of 3 weeks, we probably only have 4 or 5 days where there isn't a game of cricket on. So having the hybrids, it was ideal that we know we can just play fixtures continuously almost on the same surface.
Yeah, so they're getting a lot of use. Are the bowlers coming to you and saying, can we be on the hybrid for this game, when perhaps you haven't scheduled them for it?
Not really, because a lot of people didn't know we had them.
Oh, right. Okay, they didn't even notice.
Yeah, we weren't that quick to announce that we had them. The pros obviously noticed. As soon as the pros came down for the second 11 T20 finals day, as soon as they looked at it, they were like, this is a hybrid. But a bog standard club cricketer, because they don't see it at their club level, they were pretty oblivious. Some at the time after they played them went, oh, that pitch had a bit more pace and bounce than we're used to. And then you would tell them, yeah, this was the hybrid. We're experimenting with them, see how they play. And then they start asking all the questions because they've never heard of it before.
And has the reaction been positive to them, or has there been any negativity?
No, we haven't had any negativity from them. They've all been brilliant. Even the finals, they couldn't have gone any better on them.
And the players like them?
Yeah, everyone has said so far they like them. I haven't spoken to many people yet this year about fixtures, but I imagine there'll be a few asking if they're going to be playing on them.
Okay. So you've been there, what, a couple of years now?
Yes, I'm just coming up to. I've done 2 seasons here now, 21 and 22 season.
So you've achieved already quite a bit in terms of installing 2 hybrid surfaces. What's your ambitions for the ground, or the plans for the ground over the next year or 2?
So at the moment, we started at the last renovation back in September. We started a 4-year cycle on outfield improvements,
right?
Where the club have given me a budget over the next 4 years to continuously scarify the outfield, top dress, get lots of seed in. We fertilise a lot more now than it was previously done here, just to improve the outfield. That was the biggest thing that needed improving here. So
that's a 4-year programme. That's just basically renovations rather than reconstruction, is it?
Yeah, we had a report done by, I think it was a TMS, and it was the cost to have it completely reconstructed. It came out £250,000,
right,
which was it's way out of our financial access for what funds we've got.
Okay, so you're basically working with the tools that you can get within the budget you can get.
Yeah.
Do you, having worked in football, where you've probably seen potentially a bit more budget available for the professional football game and a few different processes, do you find that frustrating, or is it just something that you're prepared to live with?
I just accept. I knew when I took the job back in cricket that obviously money's a lot less in cricket. At football level, you see virtually every club will corro their football pitch off, certainly the main stadium, every year. Whereas in cricket, you can see the vast differences of what clubs do. Some can afford to corro off every year, and some can't. I think you just accept what you can and can't do within your means.
And you're planning for that 4 years. You've got a program that is set in stone, or have you got to make some adjustments depending on what happens?
We've got a basic idea of what we're going to do, but what we'll do is we'll just see how it goes each season, see how the outfield reacts to the weather conditions. See, my first season, the outfield remained lush and green all year. It was excellent. Loads of plaudits over it. We thought, because the year before I joined, they'd done some scarification and some seeding work. We thought maybe everything was looking a lot better. And then last year with the drought, it showed up that the outfield was still a long way from being where it needs to be. So we've got a basic plan, but what we'll do is we'll monitor it every season and see if we just need to add anything a little bit extra.
And going back to the square, would you like more hybrid pitches in there, or are you happy with the two?
Funny enough, my chief exec has actually asked me if I wanted any more. At the moment, there's more priorities. I think if a bit of money gets freed up, then yeah, we probably will look to install a minimum of one, maybe even a second one. We host a lot of corporate events here,
right?
So that they'd be good for corporate on our tour at the moment. We're in the centre of the square, but I think one on the edge of the square for corporate stuff will probably be pretty suffice as well.
So your time in football possibly gave you a few different outlooks and a few different experiences. Have you brought anything across from football in terms of looking after your ground?
Obviously, the square is completely different. It's not sandy soils, whereas obviously the football is very much on sandy soils. But we're not here. The outfield's very much, it's clay, it's flint, and then underneath it's chalk. So you're trying to bring a few football processes in, a bit of verti draining and stuff wasn't done here much. We've done a little bit of that. But it's not too much we've brought in.
Okay. Did it give you, in terms of mechanical processes, that's one thing, but did you have a different view on, use of fertilizer and any treatments that have maybe changed your view?
No, the only difference has been is we haven't got the budget here to fertilise as much as we did in football.
Right.
The actual sort of fertiliser we use are virtually identical. Or certainly I use virtually identical that I've used in football. But we just haven't got the budget to put the same amount of product on.
Yeah. You'd like to, though, would you?
I would love to. Sometimes it can always be too much fertiliser. Obviously, the sandy profiles, the fertiliser goes quickly. Goes a lot quicker, whereas here, the fertiliser seems to hold a lot more.
Okay. So when you're doing your renovations, you're obviously changing that profile. Is it moving closer to a football profile then for your outfield?
Not yet, it's not. Eventually it will. We're trying to incorporate a lot more sand. I'd love to try and put some drainage in if the budget allows. But we'll slowly work towards having a bit more of a sandier outfield.
That's part of your ambitions for the ground that you're working at. Your ambitions for you personally, where do you, see yourself and what do you want to get out of life and a career?
Well, at the moment, I'm very happy at Arundel. Very happy. It's on my doorstep. The salary's pretty decent, to be fair, considering that's one thing that's been spoken a lot about in this industry is salaries. We've also, for me, also the work-life balance has got to be correct. Yes, a lot of people work a lot long hours in this industry, and during the summer I work long hours. But I also feel a good life means you can enjoy yourself as well, not always be stuck on your ground at silly hours every day of the week. And Arundel's perfect for me. At the moment, it's allowed me in 2 years I've been here to enjoy my life outside of work as well. Professionally,
then I'd say your ambitions are to grow within the role you've got and make the improvements that you've already got planned and possibly others in the future. Would that be a fair sum up?
Certainly at the moment, yeah.
Okay. Longer term, do you see that changing?
Possibly. You just never know what comes up. I was down at Portsmouth. My mate texted me and said, "Oh, did you know the Arundel job was available?" So you just never know what opportunities come out of nowhere. So never say never. You don't know what's going to be around the corner.
Okay. So I know you've been asked it a lot, but I'll phrase it in a different way. So if the right opportunity presented itself in football, would that be attractive, or would you still prefer to stay in cricket?
Oh, it's a difficult one. Because I don't mind either sport. I would say you'd have to look at it, see what the job was. You'd be saying if someone said to you, "Do you fancy a job at Old Trafford or Wembley?" You'd be silly not to look at it. But it all depends how my life is at the time.
Okay, well, that's an honest answer. And in terms of, you touched on one of them just recently in the conversation, which is salary levels. You're saying it's a decent salary. Before this goes out, we might want to re-edit that so you can tell your boss you're not paid enough. But what are the major issues that you see in the industry, rather than well, you can look at cricket in the main, or you can look at the turf care industry as a whole. Which areas do you think are the ones that are problematic?
I think as a whole, it's not just cricket, it's not just football. Salaries are clearly a problem. I think who's to blame? I don't really know. Sometimes I don't think. Certainly lower levels is the money there. I mean, I was lucky at Portsmouth. Portsmouth was a big League One club, and former Premier League, so salaries weren't too bad. At lower level league clubs, have they got the money? Don't know. But obviously you still need the ground staff. But some of the salaries I've seen are pretty poor.
Unrealistic expectations, yeah.
Yeah, I think it is. When you put a job spec out that's listing a long list of skills you're asking for, and then you're asking for someone to do it at minimum wage. Certainly the football guys, I've been lucky being in cricket. Back in December when we had all the frost, I'm seeing all the tweets from the football guys pulling frost sheets on. They're in the middle of the night moving lighting rigs, trying to thaw the pitches out. For what some of these guys are being paid, I don't think they quite get the plaudits that they probably should. Especially
when, in theory, there's more money in football than probably any of the other sports. Not necessarily down the lower levels, but if they got lights, they've got money, haven't they?
but they have, yeah. Some clubs, to be fair, have got lights, and they're still not the richest of clubs. To be fair to them, but yeah, there's certainly the lower level clubs haven't even got undersoil heating. To see what their ground staff did in December, and I'm sure they're about to do it again. Looking at the forecast, it's pretty incredible.
I hear a lot about recognition and respect for the industry from guys like yourself, and I think, personally speaking, that lack of understanding from even the stakeholders, the people that are playing on the surfaces, or you're reporting to and explaining to, if they don't understand what the job is and how you actually get to the point of getting a surface that is not only just playable, but is actually safe, fit for purpose, and is a good surface, that stops them complaining quite often. They're very quick to complain, slow to praise, but that education process, as it keeps getting called, I think is paramount. And unfortunately, where do they get that from? It's got to be from guys like yourself that are managing upwards. And from what you're saying to be, it sounds like you might have a fairly decent relationship with your CEO and the people that you're going to and explaining what's going on. Are they kind of in your corner, knowing what you're up
to? I'm lucky here. I must admit, I'm lucky. The chief exec, we meet almost daily, and we'll always be talking about the ground. Their interest in the ground, they see if the ground isn't perfect here, they don't get to host the fixtures that they get offered. If the ground wasn't good, we wouldn't be hosting the World Test Championship warm-up fixture here. So the ground has to be right, and they know that, and they will listen to any points I put forward to them.
And did you initiate that kind of dialogue, or was that something that was already there and there was a good understanding from the club?
Previously, I don't know. And in all honesty, but since I've been here, the dialogue has always been there, and they've been willing to listen. The board members will come up for fixtures. They'll be always asking me questions about the ground, what needs to be done to improve it, am I happy with its condition, etc. They actually have a vested interest in the surface.
And I know it was a different role in football, but from what you understood in football, did that seem the same at Portsmouth, that there was a care about the surface and an understanding?
To be fair to Portsmouth, yeah, they did. Obviously, we moved from the natural surface to the mixed zone. Obviously, my boss would have dealt with. Yeah, they knew the constraints. Whether they want to spend the money is a different thing. In football, especially at Portsmouth, there's a lot going on at Portsmouth. New reconstruction on the stadium, They just bought a training ground. I've talked to Neil, who's now the ground manager down there, a lot about what's going on down there. And yeah, Portsmouth are an understanding club, to be fair to them, and I enjoyed my time there.
James, an absolute pleasure talking to you this morning. You're obviously a guy that's got a wealth of experience under your belt in a number of different disciplines, and you seem to be enjoying what you're doing down there and have a real passion for it. Wish you success for the coming season. Let's hope you get some county matches back there in the not too distant future.
I hope so. Thank you very much, Martin.